In the end of the previous lesson, I gave you our first task that needs some thinking to it. So the task was make a project like mine. In my project, each time I release a key on the keyboard, the axes of my two rectangles are swapped. You can see that the toe rectangle is going from right to left, and the fat rectangle now is to the right, but when I press any key it will go left. So we had a few solutions for this task and none of them do any good job. What I have showed to you was that just write fat rectangle x equals toe rectangle x, and then toe rectangle x equals fat rectangle x, and this is exactly what should happen. But sadly, the stupid computer executes our orders one after another. So the computer will first execute this line of code. So fat rectangle x now is equal to toe rectangle x. On this line, fat rectangle x becomes equal to toe rectangle x. And on the next line, we now want to change the value of toe rectangle x so that it can be what was the x of the fat rectangle in the beginning. Sadly, fat rectangle x already have a new value, and if we needed its old value instead of using the new one, perhaps we should have kept it on some another place. Think about this for a second. And if you haven't made your decision how to keep the initial value of fat rectangle x, I will give you one more hint. So if we think about those variables like they're buckets of water, and we want to swap the contents, if we want to swap the contents of those two buckets, perhaps we will need something else, something to keep in it the initial value of fat rectangle x, for example. If I need such a place, well, this will be a new variable and I can call it copy of fat rectangle x, because this is exactly what this variable will do. It will store a copy of fat rectangle x. So I copy it, and here in the key app, the first thing that I will do is get an initial value for copy of fat rectangle x. Of course, it should be fat rectangle x. I think this is easy to see. Now perhaps we can lose the value of fat rectangle x. While we didn't get copy of fat rectangle x, we had a problem when we first use this variable and we were losing the value in it. Now we have a backup copy of fat rectangle x, and it is in copy of fat rectangle x. So this line is no longer horrible. Now it will not erase the only place we store fat rectangle x, because luckily we already have copy of fat rectangle x. If this sounds a little bit abstract for you, I will start pretending to be the computer myself. So I will write fat rectangle x on the first line, then tall rectangle x, and finally copy of fat rectangle x. So I now have 3 columns, and I will write in each of those columns the current value of of the variable. So here under fat rectangle x, I will write the value of fat rectangle x, and initially it is 100. Here I will write the current value of tall rectangle x, and initially it is 500. And initially copy of fat rectangle x doesn't have a value, but on the first line of the first cube I will give value to copy of fat rectangle x, and it becomes, well, it becomes exactly what fat rectangle x is currently. It is 100. So now we can go to this blue line that was really scary before, because it was losing the first and only copy of fat rectangle x value. Now we should again change fat rectangle x, and it will become what is stored in tall rectangle x, which is 500. So I will write here a new value of fat rectangle x, which is 500. Well, again we lost this 100. Now we can see it in Notepad, because we can see the older values of the variables when we are running the program in Notepad. But if this program was executed by the computer, he only stores the current value of all variables. So this 100, the old value of fat rectangle x, is now lost. So on the 16th line, tall rectangle x, it becomes fat rectangle x. Is going to happen something really stupid. This variable, which had a value of 500, should change this value and become with a new value from fat rectangle x. So fat rectangle x value is 500, so I should change the value of tall rectangle x to this 500 from fat rectangle x. It's kind of stupid change, but this is what's written in the code, and obviously it doesn't work. Perhaps there is a better place to take a new value from tall rectangle x. Of course, we should take a value of fat rectangle x but it already lost its value and now it's 500. Is there another place where we can get the final value of tau rectangle x? Perhaps this is a good place to take the value to give to tau rectangle x, or perhaps tau rectangle x on its own should evaluate a new value for it. No, there is another much more simpler solution. We just need to change tau rectangle x not to fat rectangle x, but to the initial value of fat rectangle x, which is luckily stored in copy of fat rectangle x. So the solution to this horrible homework problem was replace this with copy of fat rectangle x. Let's see how this is going on. This is my old working project. Here is the project that we were editing so far. You can see this in brackets, where the name of the folder is swap variables, not swap variables working. Let's see if this normal version of swap variables is now fully working. I'm refreshing my browser. Sorry, this was again the old version of swap variables. This is the new version and again it is working. I want you to trace this code with different initial values for fat rectangle x and tau rectangle x until you are sure that you totally understand how the third variable helped us solve this horrible task. If you are bored from pointless small projects and you want to make a real game, well, we are just ready to start. Let's go close everything about swapping variables and let's continue working on the Jetpack Joyride game. Now try to swap the variables with my code yourself. Did you make your own attempts? There is one other way with addition and subtraction, and perhaps you should try to think about it. Good luck.